Excellent. So welcome everyone. If I haven't met you before, I'm Penny Hay. I'm a reader in creative teaching and learning and research fellow at Glasgow University. I'm also director of research for a charity that's called House of Imagination. And in this context, I'm co-chair of this beautiful research group Earth with Lucy English, Professor Lucy English. And today's Earth Spotlight is with Livia and Manari. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves in a minute, but it's such an exciting focus, all about Shimaka, and the title of the project is around forming the new keepers of the forest's living wisdom. So without any more to do, Liv, it's so delightful to see you again. Over to you.
Thank you, Penny. Always kind and generous with your introductions. Hey everyone, hello. So my name is Liv. I am an artist and a producer based in Rome. I used to live in the UK. I lived in London for many, many years, and then pandemic life, the universe and everything happened, and I moved back to Rome. After a couple of months, I met through an anthropologist called Eduardo Cohn. I met Manari. We became friends. We got talking about life, the universe and everything. And we decided to start this project together, Shimaka, which in Sapra language means living wisdom. Now, this is a project that the community, the Sapra community, have been thinking about and developing and talking about for a very, very long time. So it's very important to stress that my arrival, that I arrived in the middle of a process that was already happening and had been happening for many, many years. So Manari, I'm not sure he's here now because he's having some technical problems, but hopefully he will join us in a minute. So I will get us started while he gets here. So Shimaka. Shimaka is an education project created by the Sapra Nation of Ecuador, an indigenous group of approximately 700 people living in the Amazon forest across the borders of what we now know as Ecuador and Peru. In 2001, the Sapra were inscribed on UNESCO's representative list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity because their unique culture and language are in danger of disappearing. Only 4 people speak the Sapra language at the moment, and all of them are over the age of 70. So Shimaka, which as we already saw means living wisdom in Sapra, will organize the Sapra's complex system of orally transmitted knowledge into A, teaching methodology, so basically a pedagogy, and B, a curriculum. And this curriculum and this pedagogy will be passed on to teachers and young people, both at the local level, so for Sapra young people, and internationally, on the planetary level, we can say. The overarching objective of Shimaka is to form a planetary cohort of forest guardians equipped with the necessary tools and sensibility to face the ecological crisis we're living through. And that is by learning to recognize that we are forest, humans are forest, and that forest is a living entity made up of different beings, whether it's animals, plants, spirits, rivers, we're all interconnected. And the Sapra talk about this as Nukaki and Naku. Nukaki means that the world is one. Naku means that the world is forest, and we humans are part of that. Passing on this fact, passing on this knowledge is the core principle at the heart of Shimaka. So in going back to the more material aspect of it, we have 4 goals, 4 objectives, 4 outcomes in this project, which we are hoping will take about 3 years to be fully functioning. So the first one is to develop into an educational organism that can operate in alliance with an international network of educational communities, of which you are one. So thank you so much for having us. The second one is to create a curriculum and a pedagogy, as we have seen, based on Sapra's oral traditions of living wisdom. The third one is to bring this curriculum to Sapra young people, of which there are 36, and to over 300 young people around the world, online, in the community, and internationally. And to train teachers as well. So we will start with training 10 Sapra teachers, and then we will grow and start training teachers internationally. So why are the Sapra sharing the knowledge with the world? It's part of a cosmic plan. It's called cosmic politics. And the Sapra have decided to share their living wisdom with the rest of the world, because the way we are dealing with the ecological crisis is material. We are looking at it as a material crisis. And the Sapra, as guardians of the forests, know that this isn't just a spiritual crisis. And that if we don't face it as a spiritual crisis, we won't be able to do it at all. They are well placed to do it and to implement this pedagogy, because they have been guardians of the forest, of the Amazon forest, and of the metaphorical forest for millennia. And in this role, as we've seen, they have known for a very long time that the world is one and that the world is forest. Nukaki, Nako. They say that, and they mean that we are all interconnected. So another way to look at Shimaka is to think of it as a methodology to help people, to help young people, but to help people in general, remember that no matter where in the world we are, whether we are in the Amazon forest, whether we are in a city in the south of Italy, whether we are in a university in Bath, we are one and we are forest. So in many ways, Shimaka will be a methodology that is part of a journey of remembrance, a methodology to help us remember our past, so that once we can be rooted in our past, we can better face our future. And we can create a new generation of leaders and forest guardians all around the world that are able to do that, to be rooted in the past, to be rooted in the forest, to be rooted in what we could call an animist pedagogy, so that from there, we can better look at the challenges ahead, of which, of course, the climate crisis, the ecological crisis is one of the most important, is one of the primary ones. So another important aspect of this pedagogy, and that the Sapra have been discussing for a very, very long time, is that this problem that we are looking at, this ecological crisis, it's a mess. And it's a particular mess if we look at it and if we try to solve it from the material reality. You know, goals from 2030, endless meetings, board discussions, politicians talking about it. It's an intricate mess of bureaucratic disorder. It's a confusing multiplicity of daunting facts that leave us and young people confused, tired, angry. So we avoid looking at it all together. And the only thing we try and do is come up with a solution that is based on the system of knowledge that created the problem in the first place. But the more we avert our gaze and we look away from it, the fainter our memory of the forest becomes. So this is what we mean when we say that Shimaka is a journey of remembrance. It will help us face this problem by reconnecting us with our past and remember that we are forest effectively. So that is pretty much all I wanted to say. Is the beginning of what I wanted to say, the beginning of what I hope would be a conversation. I don't want to take too much time. I realize that I've that it's a lot of stuff, but hopefully it's enough for you to, you know, to be curious and want to ask questions. And I don't know if Manari is here. I don't think he is yet.
Brilliant. Thank you, Liv. I've just sent Ivan a message to see if he can help Manari reconnect again. So we had Manari in the Zoom room, everyone, just now, and then just as everybody entered the waiting room, he disappeared. So we will try and get him back from Ecuador. It was an amazing.
No, I'm here, but
Ivan.
I was introducing to Manara because he's not here in the Zoom platform, I guess, but he is here talking with me by WhatsApp at the telephone. Okay. So I'm just asking him. He's trying to do the app device through the app things through another device. So I'm trying to figure out with him how we can manage that, okay? Because there are some connection problems also. Let me just call him again because he's just offline now. Just a moment.
Thanks, Ivan. No, that's brilliant. So what we'll do, Liv, because you're very flexible and relaxed, what we'll do is we'll take some questions from the group now, and then we'll hope that Manari can join us in a moment. So if you'd like to introduce yourself to Liv as you ask a question or reflect on Liv's outline. And for those that have just joined us, Phoebe, so I've put the website in the chat as well for you to have a little look. Anybody got a first question? Just come off mute or put your hand up. Andrew, introduce yourself as well. I'm so glad you made it.
Hi there.
Hi. Oh, here you are.
Yeah, hi, my name's Andrew. Hi there. Hi, my name's Andrew Amundsen, and I'm in Berlin. And it's beautiful. And I look forward to diving a lot of what you talked about. My question,
probably I can't really hear properly.
Is there how can has different children and as opposed?
Andrew, you're quite glitchy in Berlin. I wonder whether your question would be better asked either maybe, although there you are. Maybe put your question in the chat or just take your camera off and ask it on audio.
Okay.
Thank you. And while Andrew does that, we have Manari in the room again. Manari, welcome. Liv, over to you.
Hola Manari, ¿cómo estás? No te escuchamos bien. Puedes hablar si quieres, porque yo acabé ahora de hablar. Si quieres, puede. Hola Manari. No te escuchamos, Manari. No sé por qué.
So maybe Liv, say to Manari that we'll wait for him to connect us now.
So the problem we have is that the WhatsApp signal is higher than the Zoom one. So I think at this point it's better if I stop my communication through WhatsApp so he's able to talk with you. The problem is that then I don't know how we can manage the translation. Let's try this and we see how it works, okay?
Sure, have a go. Everything's worth trying. And Andrew will come back to your question and Amanda as well. So back to you, Liv.
Back to me. So what was the... Should we look at questions now then, do you think? Or should we...
No, I think introduce Manari.
Okay. So Manari is here. ¿Puedes escuchar, Manari?
Sí.
Ah, aquí está Manari. Lindo. Manari,
Pero
voy a introducirte un poquito y después si quieres hablar por 10, 15 minutos sobre de Shimaka, sobre lo que habíamos hablado hace 2 días.
ya,
Y voy a traducirte en inglés también. Entonces, habla un poquito y yo voy a traducir. ¿Está bien?
sí, muy bien.
Okay. So here we have Manari. Manari is the political and spiritual leader of the Sapra nation of Ecuador. And he's going to tell us a little bit about the vision and about how it came into being and where we're at with the project. And I'm going to translate from the Spanish. ¿Listos? Cuando quieres.
Puedes hablar.
Tú si quieres puedes hablar, yo voy a traducir.
Ya,
Y
comenzamos.
Manari acaba de hacer una presentación tuya. ¿Tú me estás escuchando ahora mismo o no?
¿Qué te estoy escuchando?
Vale, entonces te ha presentado y te está pidiendo que hagas tu intervención, la intervención que habéis concordado, ¿de acuerdo?
De acuerdo. Nosotros, los Záparas, conjuntamente con la Libia, lo que hemos trabajado es una propuesta de educación Shimaka. Shimaka es una sabiduría que está conectado con el mundo del Makijauno, el mundo de los sueños.
Okay, so Shimaka is a teaching methodology that the Sapra are developing together with me, with us. And Shimaka is a methodology that is connected to the wisdom of dreams, which in Sapra is called Mahika Uno.
Yo les voy a explicar algunos ejemplos que vamos a dar, algunas materias para ofertar una sabiduría desde la selva, desde el corazón de la selva para el mundo.
And now he's going to tell us a little bit about what kind of subjects, like a sample of subjects that we're going to develop and then offer the world from the wisdom of the forest.
Dicho esto, vamos a dar una enseñanza sobre, por ejemplo, la materia que se llama Kamungishi.
The first subject we want to talk about is called Kamungishi.
Con Kamungishi aprenderán los niños, los jóvenes, los profesionales del mundo para conocer las reglas de cada uno de los seres que viven en la selva.
So through Kamungishi, children, young people, and professionals and adults will all learn what the rules of the forest and the world are.
Entonces, lo que vamos a enseñar en Kamungishi son las reglas de la vida. Por ejemplo, cogemos una planta que se llama chiricaspi.
So through Kamungishi, we will learn about the rules of life. One example is to give you an example, let's talk about a plant called chiringaspi.
¿Ya? Chiricaspi tiene 3 reglas súper importantes para nosotros como humanos.
This plant has 3 rules, and they're all very important for us as humans.
El primer regla es cuando tomas la hoja de chiricaspi, lo que hace es conectar con el espíritu del tiempo para manejar ese espíritu para bienestar de nuestro pensamiento, para bienestar de nuestras emociones, para bienestar de nuestras edades.
So the first rule is when we take we eat the leaf of this plant, we connect with the spirit of time. And by connecting with the spirit, we connect to well-being, we become well.
Entonces, esa regla nos sirve para los humanos. Es muy importante conocer para poder manejar la fuerza del tiempo y ampliar un poquito para nuestra vida.
So this first rule is key to understand the strength that time has, and it will help us to broaden our lives a bit. It will rethink, it helps us rethink time.
Y la segunda regla que tiene la planta es cuando tomas la rama más recta, es para ser una persona que sabe cazar en la selva, por ejemplo. O en ciudad, lo que nos va a servir es cuando proponemos algo, seamos con una visión muy clara para lograr y conseguir.
Ok, Manari, para entender si comprendí. La segunda regla es para aclarar los pensamientos en la selva y en la ciudad también.
En la selva es para ser buen cazador, pero en ciudad es para aclarar la mente y lograr nuestros objetivos.
Okay, so the second rule has different outcomes, whether we take it in the forest, and it's to do with a branch of the plant. So we learn the rule by eating the branch of the plant. And when we take it in the city is to make our objectives clear and to gain in business, for example. And if we take it in the forest, I wasn't sure, perhaps Ivan understood. To be a good hunter. There we go. Thank you, Sandra. To be a good hunter.
La tercera regla que nos da planta chiricaspi es para curarnos. Por ejemplo, si tenemos dolor de cabeza, si tenemos fiebre, sacamos el raíz, raspamos el raíz de la planta, tomamos y curamos. Eso es una manera de conectar con las reglas de las plantas.
Okay. Then we have the third rule, which is connected to the roots of the plant, and it's a healing plant. So if we are unwell, the plants can also heal you. And this is an example of how each plant has roots and how we connect with each one to have different results and to connect to life in different ways. So it isn't so much about results. That was my translation, bad translation. It's about connecting with life. Manuel, ¿puedes decir una vez más el nombre de la planta, por favor?
Chiricaspi.
Chiricaspi. Gracias.
Eso es, con Kamungishi vamos a conocer, profundizar no solamente de la planta, sino las reglas de la vida que existe en las montañas, las reglas de la vida que tiene el agua, las reglas de la vida que tiene el aire. Todo eso vamos a estudiar profundamente para conocer cómo en verdad nos relacionamos y nos conectamos con estas reglas.
So we gave you an example of how Kamungishi as a subject can help us know the rule of a specific plant. But Kamungishi isn't just related to plants, it's related to everything that is living. So to mountains, to the sea, the rivers, the sky, everything that is living has their own roots. And Kamungishi will help us connect and understand those roots. so that we can connect to the living wisdom.
Y entonces, lo más importante de conocer profundamente estas reglas naturales que la naturaleza dejó, y ese camino vamos a tomar con el mundo. Otro tema que vamos a estudiar es el Makihauno, el mundo de los sueños.
And related to Kamungishi, there is another subject that Manaro will now talk to us about, and that connects us to the world of the living forest, and that is called Makihauno, the world of dreams.
El Makihauno es, para entender, es el camino para conectar con un mundo de sabiduría Shimaka, dicho de otra manera, con sabiduría del mundo espiritual.
So Makihauno is the path to the world of Shimaka, which we could also call the world of living wisdom, that we can also call the spiritual world. For some of us might be more familiar with that.
En el mundo de sabiduría de Shimaka, conectado con el mundo de los sueños, ahí vamos a conocer profundamente las relaciones que nosotros como humanos tenemos con ese mundo, y ahí vemos la vida cómo se mueve, y de acuerdo a eso se vive en esta realidad. Y en esta realidad cambia totalmente. Entonces, para entender a ese mundo, tenemos que descifrar los mensajes y traer el mensaje a este mundo para seguir viviendo.
From the world of Makihauno, we will be able to look at the material world, at the everyday world, and understand it for what it really is. Once we are in the world of Makihauno, we can understand reality more clearly. We will be able to interpret reality more clearly through our dreams.
A ese mundo es muy importante, es muy necesario conocer, porque nuestra vida no solamente puede estar viviendo solo en una realidad, en esta realidad que estamos ahora. Si olvidamos la otra realidad, que es la sabiduría Shimaka, el mundo espiritual, si olvidamos esa parte de nuestra vida, y el centro de nuestro cuerpo no se estabiliza, se pone un poco mal. Ahí vienen el estrés, viene malestar, viene todas esas enfermedades.
Okay. And so knowing the world of living wisdom, of Shimaka, by inhabiting the world of Makihauno, it's incredibly important to our teachings, to what we're trying to pass on, because unless we do, we will continue to live in half the world. We will continue experiencing half of reality, which is the material world, which, as we all know, is where most of us live all the time. So to reconnect to the other part of life, to the other half of life that we have forgotten, we need to start dreaming. We need access to the world of Makihauno. Unless we do, we won't be able to be centered, and there will be all sorts of there will be a physical impact on our bodies that won't be balanced. Will be very imbalanced.
Entonces, por eso va a ser sumamente importante para estudiar este tema sobre Makihauno, el mundo de los sueños.
So this is why the world of dreams, the world of Makihauno, is going to be incredibly important in our pedagogy.
Y asimismo hay sinnúmeros de temas que vamos a desarrollar para poder conocer Por ejemplo, si nosotros no estudiamos sobre Unanjay, no vamos a entender en la civilización humana. En la civilización humana estamos llegando a un punto de evolucionar en la parte tecnología. ¿Eso qué significa para los humanos?
Okay, so moving on to another subject that we will teach. It's called Unanjay. Unanjay is a Sapara concept, and Manari just started explaining it and explaining what it means. I will ask him to repeat from the beginning so that he can tell us the whole thing. Manari, ¿puedes empezar una vez más hablando de Unanjay? A decirnos, antes de que hablases de tecnología.
Ya. Unanjay, con Unanjay vamos a entender la evolución humana, hacia qué camino se ha tomado.
Mm-hmm.
Este evento histórico que pasó hace millones de años, hace miles de años atrás, nos dejó una historia. Y esa historia es lo que a nosotros seguimos repitiendo esa vida y esa historia hasta ahora.
Okay, so Unanjay could be translated as understanding our present and future by means of mythic time, almost. So it's about interpreting reality the way it is today and the way it will be tomorrow based on some fact, mythic fact that has happened and has set the precedent for what happened afterwards.
Uh-huh.
So it's basically about understanding our roots and being rooted in our past.
Entonces, a ese proceso histórico que nosotros hemos evolucionado, hemos vivido, y entramos en el mundo de la evolución de tecnología. Por ejemplo, no entendemos eso. ¿Qué significa para nosotros? ¿Por qué estamos evolucionando en ese tema?
Unanjay will be very, very important, for example, to help us think about technology and how technologies turned up in our lives so seemingly unexpectedly. And thinking through this question through Unanjay will help us clarify our relationship with it.
Uh-huh. Entonces, cuando estudiamos Unanjay, vamos a conocer, por ejemplo, la evolución de tecnología es solamente para afirmar nuestra presencia como humanos, para afirmar que estamos vivos, que estamos aquí en este tiempo. De eso se trata la creación, no, la evolución de la tecnología.
Looking at technology through Unanjay, for example, makes us understand that we developed these tools and we developed this way of connecting and communicating because it's a way for us to affirm our presence on this planet, to say we are here, to say we are alive, to say we are making a difference.
Entonces, si es así, nosotros, nuestra evolución en la tecnología tenemos que hacer con mucho cuidado, porque a esa parte de evolucionar un poquito más nos puede traer problemas para nosotros. Entonces, esos problemas se estudia con Unanjay.
And for example, if we are not aware that this is why and how we are doing certain things, in this case, technology, we could incur into all sorts of problems in the way we relate to technology in this particular case. And these problems can be studied, understood, and averted through Unanjay, understanding our past by looking at the future.
Uh-huh.
No, hay
Entonces,
3 minutos, creo. Sí, disculpe si te disturbo. 3 minutos y después preguntas.
ya, con ese término. Lo que tú estabas diciendo, Unanjay es para estudiar el pasado conectamos con el presente. Y el futuro, si ese futuro vemos que tiene problema, traemos al presente. Y ahí analizamos para alinear con nuestras emociones y revisar bien que ese futuro que estamos pensando, que tiene problemas y tenemos que dar una salida en el presente. De eso se trata el estudio de Unange.
Unange, fantastic concept, really. It's a way of connecting the past, the present, and the future. Because if we are rooted in our past and we see the problems in the future, we need to stop them in the present. And once we are in the present, looking at the possible problems in the future, we have to align our center and we have to really look at how we can transform the future.
Y con esta palabra, con este mensaje, es lo que nosotros con Olivia, conjuntamente con las comunidades, estamos trabajando para compartir esta sabiduría que dejaron nuestros mayores en la selva, y esta sabiduría queremos abrir una puerta para comenzar a compartir con las demás culturas del mundo. Itzaja.
Wisaka Manari. And with these words, Manari will leave us and thank us and say that this wisdom of the forest, we are Manari in collaboration with us here, but also coming from the elders in the community. We are looking to start sending this message out into the world and to share it with you all. Wisaka. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Manari. So
Muchas
much.
gracias.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Liv, for hosting. We're going to take some questions now. So Manari, you're welcome to stay, but we understand that you're hugely busy. So Andrew had a question.
There are a couple of questions already in the chat I've been seeing during the speech. So if you agree, I would translate to Manari both the questions of Andrew and Sandra, and then we follow on with the new ones, okay? Entonces, Manari, la primera pregunta que salió en el chat del grupo al principio de tu exposición es cómo difiere el enfoque de enseñanza y reconexión entre niños y adultos, si es que hay una diferencia entre los dos. I refer to Andrew's question, which is how does the teaching reconnecting approach differ with children and adults, if at all? Entonces, ¿hay una diferencia en el enfoque de enseñanza entre niños y adultos?
Sí, hay un enfoque de enseñanza, diferencia, porque la forma como nosotros enseñamos, nuestra pedagogía es dependiendo del niño a qué camino quiere tomar. Por ejemplo,
tenemos un problema, ¿no? Con Manari.
Sí. Sí.
Manari, no te escuchamos ahora, no sé por qué.
No se oye, Manari. Anyway, he was saying that there is a difference actually between children and adults on the way they want to follow on their own life, I think. But no se oye, ¿no, Manari? Tú no me oyes, ¿verdad?
Maybe let Manari sort out the audio and then we'll go from Amanda to Catherine. So Ivan knows which. So Ivan's really called Jema. So Amanda first.
Thanks, Penny. That was a wonderful Manari. It was just beautiful listening to you talking, and it resonates so nicely with some of the research I'm planning, putting in a bid for rural Zimbabwe and some of the traditions and the connections you're drawing on there, the spiritual connections. And I'm wondering how, in terms of the Shimaka and the project, how you're connecting internationally, either through these sort of spiritual grounded connections or in other ways, and possibly with other sort of forest research organizations that are government led and, you know, in different countries, because I know different countries have their forest research organizations. And I'm also in a separate project. I'm now going to be leading an international interdisciplinary network with South Korea, for example. And I'm just, because these connections come up all the time, but in different countries and different cultures, I'm just wondering how that's working in your ambitious international objectives here.
Iván, si puedes traducir esto, Manari, y si quieres preguntar a él si prefieres tomar esto o si quieres que
De acuerdo, vale. Manari, ¿ahora me oyes?
Te oigo, sí.
Bueno, estábamos hablando de la diferencia entre niños y adultos, pero te comento la pregunta que acaba de hacer Amanda y se refiere a de qué manera conectar internacionalmente estos valores que son al fin y al cabo espirituales. ¿Cómo es que logísticamente se expande ese pensamiento de manera internacional y de manera interconectada a nivel planetario? Entonces ya tú me dices si quieres responder a esta pregunta primero o seguir con la anterior, lo que tú prefieras.
Y también si prefieras que respondo yo, decides tú.
No, sería bueno que respondas la última pregunta a usted, pero a mí me gustaría lo que yo estaba diciendo, la primera pregunta, estaba respondiendo, la primera pregunta es, a los niños desde pequeño miramos la cara, qué camino va a tomar y ese camino le guiamos. Pero cuando ya son jovencitos, ya entramos para enseñar las reglas de la vida del mundo Shimaka, el mundo espiritual. Y así vamos ya profundizando cuando ya son mayores, ya entramos ya profundamente en esos temas ya para practicar y vivir con eso.
Ivan, did you catch that?
Yes. So we go back to Andrew's question. So there is actually a difference between education in children and adults, because in the case of children, their pedagogy is focuses on the way as each child wants to manage the beginning of his life. I think it means about interests they have at the very beginning of their life. So that's the moment when they are they have to choose one way or another. But then when they grow up and they are and when they become adults, they start to learn the world rules. And at the beginning, when they are young, and later on, they put in practice the rules they've been learning in a younger stage.
¿Puedes responder la segunda pregunta?
Claro, sí.
Sí.
And the second questions, who was asking it? Sorry, Amanda, just to clarify. So you were asking how we're connecting with international communities about the more spiritual aspect of Shimaka, right? Yeah, it's challenging. It's very, very challenging because, as I'm sure you know, as someone who's been doing this work as well, and it sounds like in a very profound way, people don't really want to hear about it. Like, they want to hear about how you restructure policies and how you work within a system. But talking about spirituality, it's still very taboo, especially when we are in environments like the academy. Fortunately, we are working with amazing groups. So there is this group in Canada. We're working with McGill University, and there is a group there called Pedagogy for the Ecozoic. And the lead of this group is Professor Eduardo Cohn, who is an anthropologist, who wrote a book called How Forests Think. And that's how I met Manari, because he's a friend of Manari. So we have that really strong support network coming from the Academy, thanks to that connection. And that's really helping us open our way in other places. And then I think there is the arts conversation that's also very important. So sometimes when the spiritual angle is too complex, a gentle way is to start talking about the arts, and then from there connecting it with the spiritual realm, with the spiritual world. And of course, now we would love to connect with you.
And so Liv, now let's go to Kate and then Phoebe.
Thank you very much. This is so interesting. So I'm Kate Rigby. I'm the outgoing director of Bath Spa's Research Centre for Environmental Humanities, and I'm going to a new post as Professor of Environmental Humanities at the University of Cologne, and I'll be leading a research group called MESH, which is multidisciplinary environmental studies in the humanities. And one of the projects I'm developing there already, before I've even got there, is on intercultural literacy in the face of extinction. And the regional focus of our work will be in Australia, looking at Indigenous ecological knowledge and values being in conversation with the sort of more scientific approaches to biodiversity conservation in Australia. So what you're doing is really germane to that project of intercultural ecological literacy. And I've got a comment and a question which relates very strongly to both Amanda's question and also the question about where do we begin in the West. I might just begin with that question from Phoebe. There is a movement called Eco Church. No, it's not Eco Church. Sorry, it's Forest Church. Forest Church. So this is a Christian kind of eco-spiritual movement, which is sort of developing forms of earth-centered kind of worship in wooded and forested places. So it began in England, Forest Church, and it's got slightly different names in different parts of the world. But, I think there are opportunities for kind of interfaith, interreligious and intercultural communication around spiritual kind of pedagogy. And another thing I was wondering about was whether the Sapporo had contributed at all to the IPBES process. I just put the link there, because this is one international body that does profess an openness and indeed emphasizes the importance of Indigenous knowledges, not just knowledge, but also values. So that's the intergovernmental platform on biodiversity and ecosystem services. And there's been quite a strong Indigenous contribution to that from South America. And so I'm just curious whether Sapporo have contributed at all to IPBES deliberations, and what you might think about doing so, because this is just an international body that does have an openness, I think, to non-Western perspectives.
Thank you. Thanks, Catherine. Very, very interesting. Ivan, can you somehow summarize that in a very, very short way?
The only thing I didn't catch completely is the last one, the IPBES issue, which is...
Don't worry, because the answer is we haven't heard of it, but we'll certainly look into it right after this call. It sounds fascinating.
Ok. Entonces, ¿me oyes?
Estoy oyendo, sí.
Sí, ¿no? Mira, Catherine es una profesora de Inglaterra que trabaja en un grupo de investigación sobre la interculturalidad y concretamente está haciendo un estudio focalizado en Australia sobre la población indígena australiana y sobre la conservación de esa de las costumbres y de las culturas indígenas. Entonces, esto es un poco la introducción que hizo, y luego él ha sacado un concepto de la iglesia en la selva, que por lo visto en Inglaterra hay un estudio sobre las maneras de llevar un sistema de comunicación interreligiosa e intercultural para que pueda contribuir a la defensa de las poblaciones indígenas, de su cultura y de sus idiomas. Y estas básicamente son las consideraciones que ha hecho. Ahora, luego ha hablado de un programa que se llama IPBES, que yo desconozco. No sé si tú has podido tener alguna idea sobre eso, porque yo la verdad que no sé muy bien. Entonces, básicamente, la consideración es el enfoque interreligioso y intercultural para la defensa de los pueblos indígenas. Yo no sé si tú tienes algo que añadir a esto.
Sí, mira, lo que nosotros estamos haciendo no se trata, no es una religión. Nosotros no tenemos religión.
So we're not talking about religion. We do not have a religion. That's very important to say.
Como Mundo Zapara. Tampoco hemos aceptado religión de otras culturas que entran en la selva. Tampoco hemos aceptado eso.
And we haven't accepted any religions that have come to the forest. Never.
No, hablar de la espiritualidad, nosotros no estamos hablando de una religión. Nosotros lo que estamos hablando es una sabiduría que se llama Shimaka, sabiduría viviente.
So we're talking about living wisdom, Shimaka. We're not talking about religion.
Esa sabiduría viviente es lo que nosotros como humanos en nuestra evolución hemos olvidado. Solamente lo que queremos es recordarle a otras culturas que ese mundo existe y comiencen a soñar. Eso, nada más, eso es lo que nosotros queremos compartir con las culturas del mundo desde nuestra sabiduría de la selva.
And this is an important difference, because it's like the moment we start talking about religion, it sounds like something else. But all we want to do as Sapra, as people who do not have a religion in itself, is to remind people around the world that we are connected to every other being in the world, that we are forest. It's just a way of saying it, but really it's about the interconnectedness of being, of which we were all profoundly and acutely aware. So it's about remembering that. It's a journey of remembrance, as we said at the beginning. Now we have 2 minutes left before I need to give back the mic to Penny. So tenemos 2 minutos y tenemos una pregunta más de Phoebe. Y la pregunta es, ¿qué podemos hacer?
Sí,
¿Es verdad, Iván?
Sí, estoy aquí. Phoebe pregunta, dice que tiene muchas preguntas, pero que no sabe por dónde empezar. Pero la pregunta es, ¿cómo podemos nosotros en Occidente, que estamos un poco cogidos en este matrix, en este sistema que nos permea todo, tener acceso a esas maneras de pensar y de sentir?
Mira, lo que nosotros queremos es recordarles, enseñarles, cuando valoramos solamente una parte de la vida, que es el mundo material, y cuando olvidamos el mundo de los sueños, hemos causado muchos problemas en nuestras emociones, en nuestro cuerpo. Lo que estamos planteando ahí es cuando uno aprende algo, cuando uno experimenta algo, y ese algo debe traer una sabiduría y una medicina. Así tenemos que alinearnos para no causar problema a nuestro cuerpo. Entonces, con esa manera de pensar, con esa filosofía de pensar, es lo que nosotros queremos compartir, nuestra sabiduría para las culturas del mundo. Claro, sabemos que va a haber preocupaciones, pero poco a poco vamos a ir entendiendo, porque en este tiempo es muy necesario conectar con el pasado y recordar el pasado, traer toda esa experiencia que dejaron nuestros abuelos de todas las culturas, y traer al presente y revisar ese conocimiento, y de la misma forma en el mundo actual, en el mundo moderno, en ese mundo hay un problema grave. Y esos dos problemas graves que estamos enfrentando, por ejemplo, el cambio climático, ahora estamos con una pandemia y la gente está un poquito confundido. Lo que nosotros queremos es que revisar ese futuro con problema, pero conectado con el pasado, y para dar la nueva salida donde los humanos tenemos que continuar. Entonces, con esta intención es lo que nosotros hemos decidido como Mundo Zapara para comenzar a compartir esta sabiduría viviente a otras culturas del mundo.
Ok, gracias, Manari. Voy a hacer un poquito de asuntito porque tenemos poco tiempo. Súper lindo, Witsaka, pero... so, what can we do in the West? Well, sort of allow yourself to remember. In many ways, what all this boils down to is allowing yourself to remember that we all are forest, we all are nature. Somebody wrote in the chat. A way to access this remembrance, this memory, is dreams, as Manar explained, is the world of Mahihauno, is the world of dreams. Then there is the world of Nanje. There are all these techniques in many ways that can help us, that will help us to connect back to the past, and to allow yourself and not be afraid of connecting back to the past. Because without it, the future will look even scarier because we won't be rooted. So it's remembering our roots, whatever happened there, whatever happened in the past. Y esto es, and this is it in a very shortened version. And Penny, I'm going to give the word back to you. One last thing I wanted to say is I'm not used to being in a collective, so I haven't really said thanks to my colleagues and associates who are here from Rizomi Lab, from Rhizome Labs. Hello, hello. And I haven't said hi to the people from the Rabbit Hole, with whom I do a lot of work as well. So thank you, associates. Here.
Gracias.
With
Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias.
Manari and Liv, thank you so much for such a beautiful and powerful discussion. Really, really beautiful. And you couldn't have summed it up in a better way, Liv. So what I'm going to do is to thank everyone for being here. If you're new to the Earth Group, it's thanks to Kate and Lucy that the Earth Group are here, because together we want to create an environment as a community of practice, like Rabbit Holes, that looks at the environment, the arts and the relationship with education. So do leave your contact details in the chat and what you do so that we can keep in touch with you if you would like to. And I will share the film after the session.